out our shirt on Teespring.
The state of Minnesota has become the epicenter of a political firestorm, drawing national attention and sparking intense debate across the country. 5 Republican state senators have introduced a bill that has quickly become a hot topic. This bill aims to classify Trump derangement syndrome, often referred to as TDS, as a mental illness. The bill has ignited fierce debate among lawmakers, mental health professionals, and the general public. It raises significant concerns about the intersection of politics and mental health, with many questioning the motives behind the bill. The proposal has thrust the state into the national spotlight, drawing reactions from across the political spectrum. The bill's sponsors argue that TDS is a real phenomenon that needs to be addressed. They claim it affects individuals' ability to think rationally about former President Donald Trump, impacting their behavior and decision-making. Opponents, however, denounce the bill as misguided and dangerous. They say it is a blatant attempt to weaponize mental health for political gain, undermining genuine mental health issues. They also express fear that it trivializes the struggles of those with legitimate mental illnesses, potentially causing harm. The bill's introduction has sparked outrage and disbelief among many, with some calling it a political stunt. It has also garnered support from some quarters, particularly among staunch Trump supporters. This has set the stage for a contentious battle in the Minnesota legislature, with both sides preparing for a showdown. The outcome of this battle could have far-reaching implications for both political and mental health landscapes. It could impact how mental health is perceived and addressed in the future, setting a precedent for similar legislation. It could also affect the tone and tenor of political discourse, influencing how political disagreements are framed and discussed. The Minnesota bill offers a specific definition of Trump derangement syndrome, often abbreviated as TDS. It characterizes TDS as an acute onset of paranoia and irrational behavior directly related to Donald Trump's presidency and actions. The bill then details a range of symptoms that are said to be indicative of this syndrome. These symptoms include Trump-induced general hysteria, which manifests in various forms. They also describe an inability to separate policy disagreements from Trump's perceived personal flaws and psychic pathology. Furthermore, the bill lists intense verbal hostility towards Trump as a prominent symptom. It also includes overt acts of aggression and violence directed at his supporters, which have been observed in various settings. Critics have been quick to point out the vagueness and subjectivity of these symptoms. They argue that these symptoms could be applied to a variety of behaviors and beliefs, making the definition overly broad. This raises concerns about the potential for misdiagnosis and misuse of the term in political and social contexts. The bill's definition of TDS has been met with skepticism and criticism from mental health professionals. They emphasize that TDS is not a recognized medical or psychological diagnosis within the professional community. There is no scientific basis for classifying it as a legitimate mental illness or disorder. The American Psychiatric Association has not recognized TDS in its Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM-5, which is the standard reference. This manual serves as the authoritative guide for diagnosing mental disorders and is widely used by professionals in the field. The fate of the TDS bill now rests in the hands of the Minnesota legislature. The bill faces an uncertain future. The Democratic Farmer Labor Party, or DFL, holds a slim one-seat majority in the Senate. The House of Representatives is evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. This partisan divide makes the bill's passage highly unlikely. Democratic leaders have already signaled their opposition. They have vowed to block the bill from advancing. They view it as a distraction from more pressing legislative priorities. The Republican sponsors of the bill are aware of the uphill battle they face. They have defended the bill. They argue that it is intended to spark a conversation about what they see as the irrational hatred of Donald Trump. However, critics see this explanation as a thinly veiled attempt to legitimize the use of TDS as a political weapon. The term Trump derangement syndrome did not originate in the Minnesota State House. It has been circulating in conservative circles for years. Donald Trump himself has frequently used the term. He has used it to discredit his critics and dismiss any opposition to his policies. Trump's allies and supporters have followed suit. They have adopted the term TDS as a rhetorical tool. They use it to paint their political opponents as irrational, unhinged, and incapable of engaging in reasoned debate. This tactic has been effective in shutting down dialogue and fueling partisan division. The use of TDS in the political arena is not without precedent. Similar terms have been used throughout history to delegitimize political opponents and stifle dissent. These terms often rely on diagnosing opponents with mental instability. This serves to discredit their views and justify their marginalization. Section 5. A slippery slope. Critics decry lack of evidence and political motivation. The Minnesota TDS bill has triggered alarm bells among mental health professionals and advocates. They see it as a dangerous precedent. It could lead to the politicization of mental health diagnoses. They argue that diagnosing someone with a mental illness based solely on their political beliefs is not only unethical, but also medically unsound. The lack of any scientific basis for TDS is a major point of contention. Critics point out that there is no empirical evidence to support the existence of TDS as a legitimate mental disorder. They argue that the bill's sponsors are motivated by political expediency, not guided by genuine concern for mental health. Furthermore, critics express fear that classifying TDS as a mental illness could have a chilling effect on free speech. People might hesitate to express dissenting political views for fear of being labeled as mentally ill. This could create a climate of self-censorship and erode the very foundations of a democratic society. Section 6. Public outcry, from Twitter battles to political punditry. The introduction of the TDS bill has ignited a firestorm of controversy on social media and in the court of public opinion. The hashtag #TDS bill has been trending on Twitter. Countless users have taken to the platform to express their outrage, disbelief, and mockery. Political commentators and pundits have also weighed in on the debate. They offer scathing critiques of the bill. Some have called it an Orwellian attempt to control thought. Others have ridiculed it as a publicity stunt designed to appeal to a particular political base. The public outcry over the TDS bill underscores the deep partisan divisions that continue to plague American society. It also highlights the growing distrust in institutions. This includes the institutions of government and mental health. Section 7. Echoes of the past derangement syndromes in American politics. The term Trump derangement syndrome may be relatively new, but the tactic of using derangement syndromes to discredit political opponents is not. In 2003, conservative commentator Charles Krauthammer popularized the term Bush derangement syndrome. He used this term to describe what he perceived as the irrational hatred of President George W. Bush by liberals. The use of such terms reflects a troubling trend in American politics. It is a trend of resorting to ad hominem attacks and inflammatory rhetoric. This often comes at the expense of substantive policy debate. The historical context of derangement syndromes underscores the cyclical nature of political polarization. It also highlights the dangers of using inflammatory language and questioning the mental stability of political opponents. Section 8. The price of partisanship, eroding trust in mental health and political discourse. The Minnesota TDS bill has raised profound questions about the intersection of politics, mental health, and free speech. Critics argue that the bill's attempt to medicalize political disagreements is not only misguided, but also dangerous. It could have a corrosive effect on public trust in both mental health professionals and elected officials. If political beliefs become grounds for questioning an individual's mental health, it could create a chilling effect on political discourse. People might be less likely to engage in open and honest debate. They might fear being labeled as mentally unstable. This could further erode the quality of political discourse and undermine the very principles of a free and open society. Moreover, the bill's attempt to politicize mental health diagnoses could have unintended consequences for individuals struggling with legitimate mental health conditions. It could trivialize their experiences. It could also stigmatize mental illness. This could make it more difficult for people to seek help. Section 9. A dangerous precedent, the chilling effect on free speech and dissent. The controversy surrounding the Minnesota TDS bill serves as a stark reminder of the importance of protecting freedom of speech and the right to dissent. This bill has sparked significant debate and concern among citizens and lawmakers alike. In a healthy democracy, individuals must be free to express their political views without fear of censorship or reprisal. Open dialogue and the exchange of ideas are the bedrock of a vibrant society. Attempts to silence or delegitimize opposing viewpoints, even under the guise of concern for mental health, pose a serious threat to the principles of free speech and open debate. Such actions undermine the very fabric of democratic governance. If allowed to stand, such attempts could create a chilling effect on political discourse, leading to self-censorship and the suppression of dissenting voices. This would stifle the diversity of thought that is essential for progress. The Minnesota TDS bill, while unlikely to become law, should serve as a wake-up call. It highlights the need for vigilance in protecting our freedoms. It is a call to safeguard the fundamental rights that underpin a functioning democracy. These rights are not just legal protections but are essential to our identity as a free society. It is a reminder that the right to disagree, to dissent, and to engage in robust political debate is paramount. Without these freedoms, our democracy cannot thrive. These rights must be protected from attempts to silence or delegitimize them, regardless of the motivation. We must remain vigilant and proactive in defending our freedoms.